Welcome back to Professing Christians. This is Lisa. So today I'm going to read the post that is about to go up on the WordPress blog for Professing Christians. And I labored over this one a little bit. In the past, I have looked at what is the remnant. The remnant, as in the mentions in the Old Testament, in prophetic books, and how it relates to who we are today. This is how I understand it. The title is God's Remnant in Our Time. There is a mention of God's remnant in the book of the prophet Joel that calls for exploration. It comes at the end of chapter 2. But before we dig into it, we need to look at context. Joel is a short book in the Old Testament. He gets right to the point of things. The book is divided into 3 chapters for good reason. It's the end of all things in 3 parts. Joel 1 is a prophecy of the end of temple sacrifice and the subsequent destruction. The event that Joel sees taking place in chapter 1 is none other than the kickoff to the day of the Lord. A nation akin to a plague of worms and locusts tears through the land. Verse 6, For a nation is come up upon my land, strong and without number, whose teeth are the teeth of a lion, and he hath the cheek teeth of a great lion. Verse 7, He hath laid my vine waste, and barked my fig tree. He hath made it clean bare, and cast it away. The branches thereof are made white. We, of course, are reading in Joel chapter 1. This army has many times been compared to, or held to be the same as, the army in Revelation 9, verses 3 through 11. And for good reason. They looked like locusts, and they had teeth like lions. They were definitely very scary-looking beings. The Revelation 9, verse 11, verse tells us, And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue has his name Apollyon. But it says in Revelation 9, verse 4, And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. If this is the same army as Joel 1, it would appear that either they did not follow the command and took out the trees and every green thing, as the disobedient would do, or as we'll see in Joel chapter 2, verse 3, that was the designated job of a second army that immediately follows. This first locust army, however, did not hurt the elect, but tormented the rest of the people. Let's mention that it could also be the same end times event as the meat and drink offerings that were cut off from the house of the Lord, mentioned in Joel 1, verses 9 and 13. This, of course, coinciding with the prophet Daniel. Then Joel gives us the timeline for his prophecy. Joel 1, verse 15, Alas for the day of the Lord is at hand, and as a destruction from the Almighty shall it come. Chapter 1 ends with Joel lamenting that there are no pastures for the cattle, and the rivers of waters are dried up. Joel chapter 2 is the trumpet, God's army, the latter rain, and the coming king. We start Joel 2 with a trumpet blast in Zion, kicking off the day of the Lord. It is a day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness. And then God's army comes. Second half of verse 2, As the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong, there hath not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. Verse 3, a fire devours before them, and behind them a flame burns. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yea, and nothing shall escape them. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen so shall they run. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of fire that devours the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. What's next tells us this is not an army of disobedience. Verse 7, they shall run like mighty men, they shall climb the wall like men of war, and they shall march every one on his ways, and they shall not break their ranks. Neither shall one thrust another. They shall walk every one in his path, and when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. And they come as a thief in the night. Verse 9, they shall run to and fro in the city. They shall run upon the wall. They shall climb up upon the houses. They shall enter in at the windows like a thief. But how can we be sure this is God's army? Verse 10, the earth shall quake before them, the heavens shall tremble, the sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. Revelation 6, anyone? Verse 11, and the Lord shall utter his voice before his army, for his camp is very great. For he is strong that executes his word. For the day of the Lord is great and very terrible, and who can abide it? Next comes the call to repent, and the Lord hears their weeping, as he is about to set up his kingdom in the earth. But first, he has to displace the locust army. Verse 20, but I will remove far off from you the northern army, and will drive him into a land barren and desolate, with his face toward the east sea, and his hinder part toward the utmost sea. And his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he has done great things. Fear not, O land, be glad and rejoice, for the Lord will do great things. Then the latter rain ushers in his kingdom. Verse 23, be glad then, you children of Zion, and rejoice in the Lord your God, for he hath given you the former rain moderately, and he will cause to come down for you the rain, the former rain and the latter rain, in the first month. And the floor shall be full of wheat, and the vats shall overflow with wine and oil. And I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten, the cankerworm and the caterpillar and the palmer worm, my great army which I sent among you. The rest of Joel 2 describes the coming about of the kingdom reign. Verse 26, and you shall eat in plenty and be satisfied, and praise the name of the Lord your God, that hath dealt wondrously with you, and my people shall never be ashamed. And you shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God, and none else. And my people shall never be ashamed. And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, your young men shall see visions. And also upon the servants and upon the handmaids in those days will I pour out my spirit. And I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord come. And now we get to the case in point. Joel chapter 2, last verse 32, but it must include the first verse of Joel 3. Joel 2:32, and it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered. For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem shall be deliverance, as the Lord has said, and in the remnant whom the Lord shall call. God will call a remnant. He seems to always have a remnant. Joel 3, verse 1, For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. God brings again a captivity. Captivity, Strong's H7622, means exiled prisoners from a former state of prosperity. Is this the remnant that the Lord calls to be part of the current short season captivity? Remember, the kingdom with the New Jerusalem is already here. Then, verse 2, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. Now in Joel 3, we have the valley of Jehoshaphat, which is the valley of decision, and the new Jerusalem is deemed safe. So let's start this off with what Jehoshaphat is. It is Strong's G3092, meaning Jehovah judged, or Yahweh judged. Yes, Jehoshaphat was also an Old Testament king, but this is a descriptive valley. It's where the Lord pleads, Strong's H8199, or that means executes judgment, pronounces sentence, vindicates, or punishes. He does this because of the activities they have done, now in the little season, as described in verses 3 through 8. Horrible things, also involving children. And so it's a call to war. Verse 9, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. There cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be wakened, and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. The valley of Yahweh's judgment is to cause believers in our day to make a decision to redeem the remnant and to judge the rest of the nations. It's the final war of good versus evil, but its consequences are great because it's also the valley of decision. Verse 13, put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Verse 14, multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. This is where all the people, including the professing Christians, decide what side to be on. It ends again with the heavens and the earth going dark and shaking. Verse 15, the sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. The Lord also shall roar out of Zion, and utter his voice from Jerusalem. And the heavens and the earth shall shake, but the Lord will be the hope of his people, and the strength of the children of Israel. Now that does sound a lot like Revelation 6 and Joel 2, but I believe the next verse gives us a clue that this is after the little season. Verse 17, so shall you know that I am the Lord your God, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then shall Jerusalem be holy, and there shall no strangers pass through her any more. No strangers will pass through her any more. This sounds like the final rest for all the people of the New Jerusalem. The camp of saints will not be surrounded again. But what about the remnant? I hear you. Now that we've established that Joel is speaking of a remnant left after the day of the Lord, let's look at what the remnant was all about. I'll make this quick, but it can be an in-depth study. All the way back in Genesis, we have Abraham asking God about his judgment upon the wicked affecting the righteous. Yes, we are talking about Sodom and Gomorrah in Genesis 18. Verse 20, and the Lord said, because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come unto me, and if not, I will know. And the men turned their faces from thence and went toward Sodom, but Abraham stood yet before the Lord. And Abraham drew near and said, will you also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Abraham persists with questions and finally gets to the last. Verse 32, and he said, O let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak yet but this once. Peradventure 10 righteous shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. We know God is going to finish off this earth of wickedness and set up a new place for us. But he won't destroy it if any of the righteous are here. This is the reason for the valley of decision that we just talked about. We see in Leviticus 5 that the remnant is a priestly thing. Verse 12, then shall he bring it to the priest, and the priest shall take his handful of it, even a memorial thereof, and burn it on the altar, according to the offerings made by fire unto the Lord. It is a sin offering, and the priest shall make an atonement for him as touching his sin, that he hath sinned in one of these, and it shall be forgiven him. And the remnant shall be the priest's as a meat offering. I need to mention that Abraham already met with Melchizedek, the priest of the Most High God, in Genesis 14. And in the book of Hebrews in the New Testament, we have multiple mentions that our King, Jesus, is our high priest in the order of Melchizedek. Specifically, see Hebrews chapter 5, verse 6. Joshua speaks of the remnant of giants after the flood in Joshua 12:4 and 13:12. If God allowed a remnant of the giants to continue, would he not also want a remnant of his chosen left here in the little season? Isaiah in the time of King Hezekiah speaks much about God's remnant. Isaiah chapter 1 verse 9, except the Lord of hosts had left unto us a very small remnant, we should have been as Sodom, and we should have been like unto Gomorrah. And again in chapter 37 verse 31, and the remnant that is escaped of the house of Judah shall again take root downward and bear fruit upward. For out of Jerusalem shall go forth a remnant, and they that escape out of Mount Zion. The zeal of the Lord of hosts shall do this. In chapters 10 and 11, 2 chapters of Isaiah with very much end times connotations, we have these gems. First chapter 10, verse 20. And it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel, and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob, shall no more again stay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, in truth. The remnant shall return, even the remnant of Jacob, unto the mighty God. For though thy people Israel be as the sand of the sea, yet a remnant of them shall return. The consumption, which means destruction, decreed, shall overflow with righteousness. And Isaiah 11, verse 11, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again, the second time, to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left, from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. And there shall be a highway for the remnant of his people, which shall be left, from Assyria, like as it was to Israel in the day that he came up out of the land of Egypt. And this is after the mention of the millennial reign, earlier in chapter 11, when the lion lays down with the lamb. Okay, let's get it right. Verse 6. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. If we look closely, we'll see the remnant priest connection again, right after the Revelation 6-like event is to commence. Joel chapter 2, verse 13. And rend your heart and not your garments, and turn unto the Lord your God, for he is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness, and repents him of the evil. Who knows if he will return and repent, and leave a blessing behind him, even a meat offering and a drink offering unto the Lord your God. Is the remnant a blessing left behind? A sort of offering to the holy king and high priest? I know sometimes my life feels like it's on fire. But let's look at 2 Ezra chapter 13, a chapter that describes the Gog and Magog event. Verse 16, For as I conceive in my understanding, woe unto them that shall be left in those days, and much more woe unto them that are not left behind. For they that were not left were in heaviness. Now understand I the things that are laid up in the latter days, which shall happen unto them and to those that are left behind. It seems Ezra is saying there is a remnant left behind in the latter days. Let's continue. Whereas thou hast spoken of them that are left behind, this is the interpretation. He that shall endure the peril in that time has kept himself. They that be fallen into danger are such as have works and faith toward the Almighty. Know this, therefore, that they which be left behind are more blessed than they that be dead. If I'm reading this right, it is a blessing to be the remnant. Rather, the remnant is here to be a blessing. This is exciting times. So that's the post that is going up on WordPress, Professing Christians today. Interesting things to think about. But I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for joining me. This is Lisa with Professing Christians.